All right, we are live. NFL Week 4 has kicked off. We had an exciting game tonight. Seattle defeated the Arizona Cardinals with a score of 23-20. There was a lot that went on within this game tonight. There's a lot to take away. There's a lot to discuss, both good and bad on both sides. Now, within this game, there was a point where specifically for Marvin Harrison Jr., things did not look good, and even at the lowest point with Marv, the tipped ball interception. I mean, I was at a point where I was kind of like, okay, hey, if I'm a team that needs a receiver, kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs, I would definitely send an offer or at least see where we are, see where the Cardinals are with Marvin Harrison Jr. So I couldn't have been happier for Marv to catch that touchdown, and then even on the slot fade against Devin Witherspoon late in the game before Arizona scored a touchdown to ultimately tie it up 20-20. I could not have been more happy for Marv to see him bounce back. Now, I am still a believer in Marv. I still think that he can be a 1,000-yard player. Really happy to see that. I figured that would probably be the part that people would want addressed, at least first, because of how Marvin Harrison is kind of polarizing. Everybody has their opinions on Marv. But within this game, there was a lot to there's a lot to go over, just because the Seahawks were up in this game. They were up 17-6 in the fourth quarter. There was a tweet at one point that basically, or they're not a tweet rather, but it was a graphic that showed on Amazon. It said the Cardinals had, at the lowest point, like a 3.6% chance of winning. They, of course, came back, tied it up, 23-20. But let's go ahead and go over just the notes that I have for this game. So within this, the Seahawks, and I mean there was, and we will go by play by play here, or drive by drive rather. So I'm going to pull up the almighty. I like pulling up the ESPN box score. That way we can, really dissect each drive within this. So, punt, turnover on downs. The interception with the Cardinals was rather it was a very Seahawks play, for lack of better wording, just because even within, the Marvin Harrison Jr. game that we discussed, there was a point within this game where Marv, it looked like he kind of stopped on a route, although I do think that even if he kept going, that ball was really, really overthrown by Kyler. And I think that was a bad play. It was kind of funny, though, because within that play, Tyrese Knight got pushed into Kobe Bryant. He fumbled. Cardinals recover. I don't have anything else to say other than that was a very Seattle sequence. And then the Cardinals made it 3-0 after that. And the Seahawks' second drive, they eventually scored a touchdown. It was capped off by an A.J. Barner touchdown. And then the Cardinals' third drive, they were sacked on second down, 3rd and 15. Cardinals had to punt. And at this point, it was the end of the first quarter here. So this is where we're on this drive now. We're here for the Seattle punt. I put at this point that I really thought the Seahawks felt that they had the game in control. And I even tweeted that at one point where, hey, I thought that, whatever the score was, 17-6 at the time, it just never felt like Seattle was going to lose. Now, obviously, Seattle this game, for lack of better wording. But there was the interception on the 10-play drive for the Cardinals that was the big Marvin Harrison tip ball, and then there was a lot of things that were said at that specific point in time. And then I have a super chat here, and MEW says, Arizona sports is hell. I hate everything. I'm going to be honest, I don't blame you for feeling that way. Even at half, it was 14-3 Seattle. They had outgained Arizona 212-107. And I would say one play that does not get discussed within this game, as probably as much as, you talk about a play here, a play there. There was a play at the beginning of the third quarter. Arizona was down 14-3. And within that, that sequence there, Sam Darnold was strip sacked at the beginning of the third quarter, and Seattle recovered. They eventually went down, got a field goal out of it. It was 17-3, a couple punts back and forth, and then Arizona eventually got, they got a field goal out of a drive. There was a play where there was a dropped screen on a third down to Greg Dortch, and that was, at that point, kind of just how I felt the summarization of that game. And then one thing that I did want to point out with and we'll discuss the Cardinals' future here in a second with everything, because like I said, there were a lot of just takes that I had during the game that kind of summarized how I feel about this team through the first effectively quarter of the year, because Arizona is, we're, 4 games out of 17, and while 4 divided by 17, obviously not, technically a quarter, but you might as well say we're a quarter of the way through the year now, right? The Cardinals' second leading receiver heading into this game, whether you guys know this or not, had 29 receiving yards. So not including Marvin Harrison, and obviously I'm not including Trey McBride in this, or Trey Benson or anybody else, but the actual second receiver. And it was Greg Dortch, who had 29 receiving yards in the first 3 games of the year. That's definitely something to note, obviously. But Seattle eventually made it 20-6. And then Arizona eventually made it 20-13. Obviously, because, the game eventually became 20-20. So in order to do that, you had to make it 20-13. And within that drive, I had Arizona moving the ball well. Kyler was running well. Reek Woolen had a DPI to give Arizona the ball at the 9-yard line. And then there was an immediate sack after that, and I kind of put that as the summarization of the Cardinals game to that point. And then Marv finally had a touchdown. I was really happy for Marv. And then Seattle had, Sam Darnold had a huge throw on the following drive to JSN. That was dropped in a bucket, and we talk about quarterback play from young quarterbacks in the NFL. That was a high-level throw by Sam Darnold in a big-time moment. Now, unfortunately, there was a missed field goal kick. Arizona, tremendously clutch drive. They had a 12-play drive to make it, 20-20. And then, for lack of better wording, just kind of Cardinals fashion, they, kick it out of the landing zone. Seattle's the ball at the 40-yard line. JSN makes a play. You have a running play, and then Jason Myers rebounds himself, and ball game, 23-20. So that was very frustrating loss for the Arizona Cardinals, because, well, for several reasons. They were let back in the game. They capitalized in the fourth quarter. Marvin Harrison stepped up when he needed to. And you had an unfortunate sequence at the end, and it was a very winnable game. But anyway, for the Cardinals takes that I have long term, because I did have some tweets within this game, and I think I'm going to pull up my Twitter just to show you guys some of the tweets that I had within this game, just to give you an idea, because I think Twitter's a good just representation of how I felt about things that were going on at the time of the game. So let me go ahead and pull this up here. So there was a lot that went into this. Now, within what I do want to discuss is, there was one tweet that I had in particular. It was about Marvin Harrison Jr. The haters said that Marv was overrated. The haters said that you weren't the best wide receiver in your class. The haters said you wouldn't take the next step this year, Marv. The haters were right. Good call by the haters. I was also offered a trade for Marvin Harrison Jr. in the middle of this game in a Dynasty League. I declined. I still very much believe in Marvin Harrison Jr. Very happy for him. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the Twitter up just to give you an idea of what, how my mindset was during this game. Let's go ahead and pull this up here. Anyway, somebody did ask for a Meadow appearance. That may happen soon. Meadow is my dog. She's a 2-year-old beagle. So this one tweet here that I want to highlight. I believe in the Cardinals' vision, but I do not believe in the people leading the team. Now, what I mean by this is, I really believe in what and actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull the tweet back up here, because I actually, had this exact, somebody asked, what do you mean by that? And I said, meaning I believe in what they're trying to accomplish, win with front four, dominate the trenches, establish the run, but I don't think the current coaching staff is the right staff to do so. And I have a lot of concerns with Arizona moving forward, just because when you sit back and ask the question, based on how the Cardinals played through the first couple of quarters tonight, especially with Kyler, because there's times where Kyler gets under pressure and he will have the occasional play that you saw against the Panthers a couple weeks ago, where he will do a lot of dancing around, make a crazy legit play, and then it's kind of, there's probably half a dozen plays where he bounces out of a pocket and then immediately cuts off half the field, because he just bounces out whenever there's a sign of pressure. So I have a lot of concerns with the Cardinals moving forward. So do I want them firing Jonathan Gannon? Not exactly. Now, within this, the thing is Cardinals fans, I know how Cardinals fans feel about Drew Petzing. I don't think Drew Petzing is going to be the long-term answer there, and I don't think that's going to be a hot take. I don't think anybody's going to push back with that one. Although I don't think Drew Petzing, excuse me, I got to blow my nose. Give me one second. Now, within this, I don't think that just long-term that Drew Petzing is going to be the guy. Now, I do have some questions about Jonathan Gannon, and I think a valid question to ask is, is Kyler the long-term answer? Because I don't think he is. Is Drew Petzing the long-term answer? No, we've already established that. And whenever you look at this Cardinals roster, I mean, we're entering year 3 now with Monty Ossenfort, or sorry, we're not entering. We are in year 3. And this roster is not great at several positions. Now, I know Rome wasn't built overnight, but guys, we're at a point where, like we said, the Cardinals' second leading receiver had 29 yards in 3 games heading into this game. Now, they did step up tonight. That was key for the Cardinals to be able to stay in this game. So credit where it is due. But I would kind of go back to the thing with Jonathan Gannon, where I don't want this to sound anti-Gannon, because I like him and I like the vision. I really do. And I think the same can also be applied to Monty Ossenfort as well. But do you think they are good enough to lead this team to not just one, but multiple playoff wins over the course of time? And that's kind of what I go back to. Now, the Cardinals are going to be at a point here, by the way, where Kyler Murray, everybody would probably agree he's not a top 7, top 8 guy. And that, again, not a hot take. But you're also entering a point where, okay, we're also going to be too good of a team to have a top 3 or top 4 pick. So with the Cardinals, I kind of look at the situation and think, what do you do? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that regarding the Arizona Cardinals' future. Other than, I don't think that this is going to, I just don't think it's going to end well. And I don't think there's going to ever be a point where we're walking off the field, the Arizona Cardinals, that is, man, we just beat the Detroit Lions in the wild card round of the playoffs, 31-28. And then 7 days later, hey, we just beat the division rival Rams in SoFi, 24-20, hell of a win. I don't ever see that happening. That's just me. But curious to where you guys would stand on this. Super chat from Big Bird. He says, is the NFC West the hardest division? I think when healthy, yes. I really do. I said that heading into the year, that Seattle, Arizona, the Rams, and then the 49ers, when healthy, take your choosing. Because that's an unbelievable division, man. All right. And by the way, if you guys are enjoying, please drop a like. It helps tremendously, and I truly cannot thank you guys enough for the support. Appreciate everyone being in here. And we're at 40 likes, so let's try and get that up to 100. So appreciate everyone being in here. Goose also dropped super chat. He said, Sam Darnold legit. 100% yes. And for everybody that tonight, or for everybody that in the offseason was basically like, hey, Sam Darnold sees ghosts, Sam Darnold, pees his pants in big games, whatever the case may be. That throw to Jackson Smith-Njigba, I thought, was validation as to who Sam Darnold is when it matters, and that's who he was for most of last season for Minnesota. So I was really, really happy for Sam to be able to have that opportunity and to be able to make that play in that situation. And then even at the end, that big play to Jackson Smith-Njigba, the one I was referring to was the big one down the right sideline where Jason Myers missed the field goal, but then Sam, in theory, because they were tied, he did lead a game-winning drive. So really happy for Sam. All right. Do I miss Sam Darnold as a Vikings fan? I mean, in some ways, yes, but there's also parts of it where it's like, okay, hey, if you bring back Sam Darnold, then you also don't get Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, and Isaiah Rodgers, who, by the way, just had one of the single best defensive games ever against the Bengals. So, yes, I'm not going to lie and say, no, I don't. Yes, 100%. I'm happy for Sam. But this isn't a player leaves a team and you're like, man, I want him to fail. No, I wish Sam the best, and I'm really happy for him. All right. Do I think the Vikings win Sunday morning? Yes, I do. Does Rick Woolen deserve a big contract? No. He's he gets grabby at times. Seahawks fans have been very frustrated with him really since the rookie season, and you saw a little bit of that tonight. There's DPI penalties. There's plays where he doesn't get his head around. He's a very frustrating player because the tools are there. I think it's fair to say in some aspects that Rick Woolen is not exactly the same, but similar to the Kyle Pitts of the defense, where he had that really good rookie season, and it's been kind of downhill since. So, all right, and then I have a comment here from Braden. He said Reek can go. I'm assuming that I'm assuming that Braden is a Seahawks fan, but that's kind of my point. Let's see here. Witherspoon is way better. Agree 100%. All right, let's keep it rolling here. But anyway, so let's go to so we did discuss the Cardinals and their future with Seattle tonight. Definitely some. I don't want this to all be like, it's kumbaya in Seattle, because this was a game that I thought Seattle could have handled a lot better, at least towards the end. I mean, this was a game where, you had them down to whatever it was, like 3% chance to win. And Seattle did this back in week 1 over San Francisco. There was a point where Seattle, there was 3 minutes left in the game, and they had like 4th and 1 on San Francisco's 19-yard line. And instead of going for it, they kicked the field goal. San Francisco went down, scored a touchdown, and won. And then Nick Bosa made the play against Abraham Lucas. Strip sack, fumble, Nick Bosa recovers. That's a former DPOY making DPOY plays, right? So I think with Seattle, there's also kind of similar conversations to be had that we just talked about with Jonathan Gannon, where defensive coaches at times, Gannon specifically, Mike McDonald specifically in that week 1 game against San Francisco, there's times where, you kind of have a defensive coach play not to lose, and we'll see if that comes back and bites Seattle in the rear end long term. But that's definitely a conversation to be had. You saw it in week 1, and I think there's a very legitimate case that the Seahawks should be 4-0. And then we even have a couple comments here that says Clinton Mike have been way too conservative in these divisional games. Could not agree more. So I'm right there with you on that. Let's see here. The Hawks, remember, they used to their normal one games, or their normal one-score games. So I did tweet, even within this. I tweeted as well. I said Seattle just couldn't give their fans 2 easy games in a row, and that's exactly. Yeah, you guys know how the Seattle Seahawks typically are incapable of playing a normal game. Tonight was a good example. But good for Seattle. Good for Seattle to get the win. But there's definitely conversations to be had about the long-term, not ramifications, but definitely the long-term impact of Seattle at times playing extremely, extremely conservative / hey, let's not lose the game. And, they were up 20-6. And like I said, when they were up 20-6, I really thought that Seattle had complete control of the game, and Arizona only had 253 yards of offense tonight. Yet they showed up when it mattered most, and so did Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, very, very happy for Marv. But the reality is this game, I feel like it shouldn't have been that close, but it was. So there's conversations to be had for Seattle as well. Seattle outgained them by over 130 yards. And what was the turnover battle? So it was 2-1 in favor of 2-1. Seattle, Arizona turned the ball over twice, so Seattle won the turnover battle. Seattle's only turnover was the fumble by the defense to give the ball back to Arizona. They had a game where their offense didn't turn the ball over. They had a game where their offense was on the field for over 32 minutes. They ran the ball they ran for over 150 yards as an offense, and you only won by a last second field goal. That's concerning. Not concerning, but something to note for sure. All right. JSN. Oh, let's see here. Am I in Boca Raton? I'm not. I'm. That's a comment on the shirt though. I'll take it. I do wear the collared shirts / Hawaiian shirts though. I don't come out here in tank tops or shirtless or whatever. Always throw on a decent shirt. Anyway, I appreciate it though. Let's see. I hate waking up and Zach Hoare is still employed. I appreciate the super chat. It's tough go for the Ravens so far, no doubt. Titania says the NFC. By the way, appreciate the super chat as always, Titania. The NFC West as a division seems to have a love-hate relationship with the quarter. Yes, definitely. The NFC West is very entertaining. And I was really, I tweeted before the game that I was really, really excited for Seahawks Cardinals. This type of game was why. And it was a very entertaining game. And I I mean, Seahawks, Cardinals, they're two of my favorite teams to pay attention to and to regularly, keep up with what's going on, and it didn't disappoint. I was very, very glad to see Marv redeem himself, and I was also glad to see Sam Darnold and JSN each have the game they did. So, if there is one thing that I do think is a little disappointing for the Seahawks, despite being 3-1, I would definitely like to see more Jalen Milroe usage, which we see next to 0. I was hoping that even to go back to that San Francisco situation that we discussed earlier, where it was 4th and 1 on the 49ers, 20-yard line or 19-yard line, whatever it was. In short yardage situations, I'd really like to see the Seahawks go with Jalen Milroe and basically, have either a wildcat package or something, but basically where he can either run the football, throw the football just from, within a yard, because he is such a dynamic player. So I would like to see more of that. But Seahawks, I mean, they're still 3-1, still a lot of positives to take away, and good for Seattle, because it's tough to win in the desert on a short week. It really is. All right. Now, there were a couple of requests. For Meadow. I figured, I did tweet that it was because it was an animal game. We have the Seahawks and the Cardinals. I figured it was an animal game, so I figured that with an animal game, it'd be a good time to bring Meadow back. Meadow, my dog, 2-year-old beagle. People were requesting a cameo from Meadow, so one sec. All right, we are live. Hold on, you gotta look at the camera here. Hold on. All right. So she's a 2-year-old beagle. She's a tricolor, 3 colors, obviously. Brown, black, white. She's a good girl, a great girl, I would say. And yeah, she's doing good. And she has pottied for the night, done all the dog stuff. Did you just yawn? She's a great girl, and yeah, she's very very positive light in my life that I enjoy hanging out with, right, Maddie? And that is one of her names. Everybody has a name for their dog. I call her Meddy, also Meadow, of course. So, all right. So I'm gonna put Meadow down for the night. But that was the Meadow cameo experience. So one more look. All right, one more look. All right, I'm back. Ooh, all right. But anyway, so like I said, good win for Seattle. There is a lot to take away for each side. And then, even with Arizona, things can be worked out. I do worry about where this team is going to be long term. So that is mainly the takeaways for each team tonight. So let's take a look here. All right, let's see. I like that there is absolutely zero pressure on Milroe, so he can truly develop it with a 4th and short. That's the biggest thing, is I just want to see more 4th and short usage from him, because there's a clear path for Jalen Milroe to have success in 4th and short situations that I'd like to see from him. So I'm right there with you, and that would be the biggest thing that I want Seattle to implement moving forward with Jalen Milroe. So Kyler Murray not moving the needle, I would also agree with that. And yeah, I mean, that's we're on like year 7 of Kyler Murray, and I think that everybody has their opinion on Kyler Murray, rightfully so, at this point. So, all right, next episode, dog power rankings. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. Speaking of Meadow, can you pray for me? My dog unfortunately passed away. Yes, 100%, man. I'm genuinely sorry for your loss. That is the worst experience that I've had in just. Yes, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for your loss, because both my parents thankfully are still alive, but that was just a brutal experience, man. So I'm with you, and I'm thinking about you through this time, man, for sure. Let's see here. I'm happy Marv got himself together, myself as well. Milroe tush push. I wouldn't even necessarily want a Milroe tush push as much as I just want him to be in the game just as a threat. Hey, we have Jalen Milroe. You have to account for him in ways that you don't have to account for Sam Darnold for. Now, obviously, we're not calling long developing passing plays for Jalen Milroe the same way that we would for Sam Darnold. But that's I'm with you in that sense. Like, I want him in the game. Do I think Petzing is holding the Cardinals offense back? In some ways, yes. Just because there were a lot of screens tonight, and he kept going to the screens. The one eventually did work too. I want to say it was Greg Dortch after Greg Dortch dropped the one on 3rd and 17. But Drew Petzing is very frustrating. So Cardinals fans, I'm with you. Is this the last year of the tush pushes? Yes, 100%. 99%. The tush push was voted on this past summer. 22 owners said, hey, let's get rid of it. It needs to be 24, like to get approval or whatever. There's already a lot of drama and noise about the tush push 4 weeks into the season. Technically 3 weeks into the season, because there was a lot of drama before tonight, even though we just started week 4 tonight. It's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. I'll just say that. Very happy for JSN. Been a big fan of him and super glad to see him as a dominant player myself as well. JSN's taking a big step this year. JSN is taking a big step this year. So I'm with you on that. But I think that is going to wrap up tonight's live stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Appreciate everybody who joined. And if you guys did enjoy and you're not already, please like the video, or please like the stream. Please subscribe. We're closing in at 215,000 subscribers. So cannot thank you guys enough for the support. And we will be live again tomorrow at 3 p.m. And I'll have a video Saturday at 10 a.m. And then, of course, the weekly recap Sunday night. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you did, like I said, please like the stream. Please subscribe. And as always, until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.